This is for the know-it-alls who know nothing. So first I have to address some of the comments from part one. Shout out to the people who can handle the truth. I pity the fool who can't. I pity the fool. There will be no recap because if you're here, you already know what it is. This is All the Lies Don Told and Why She's Really Broke, Part 2. There's still all these people in the En Vogue streets who've never bought a CD, never been to a show, making all these videos, and they don't know what they're talking about. So many people are stuck on the 2 pennies per album lie. So many people are stuck on so many lies. But what I'm going to get into today is the renegotiation that Don pretends never happened, but what the other members have spoken about. And so let's get into it. Let's get into what Don said, and then we'll get into what the other members have said regarding the renegotiation.
Well, I wasn't, see, the deal that we did from the very beginning is the deal that we continue to have on each album. And you go platinum. The minute you go platinum, it's supposed to go in the studio and literally, not figuratively or literally, tear that old contract up and renegotiate for better terms. We never did that. Not ever, ever. So for the first album, we had the same amount of points and percentages, and our advance was the same amount as the second album, Born to Sing. Born to Sing was the same amount of points and percentages and advance and all that as Funky Divas. And then when we did the Runaway Love album, which was Runaway Love, that's what it was called, we never renegotiated for that either. So we were making 2 pennies a record on the first album per girl, 2 pennies a record on the second album per girl. It didn't change.
Now let's hear from Cindy and Maxine in 1997.
We had not planned for it to be 3 years. We initially took a break because I got pregnant. And we stopped working when I was about in my 5th month. And also during that time, we were renegotiating our record deal. And that just got stretched out long, very long. It was just a lot of back and forth between the attorneys. So then it just 1 year turned into 2 years, and then I got pregnant.
Ooh, Don, you're caught in another lie. Not only did Maxine speak about the renegotiations in 1997, she went into greater detail about the terms of the contracts that En Vogue renegotiated before going in to record EV3 in an article by Jerry Clark from September 29th of 2014 titled Maxine Jones, Why En Vogue Broke Up and Why She'll Never Work with Them Again. Now, you may remember this article. It's the one where Maxine famously called Don Looney. However, there's a hidden gem in the article, and it's Maxine actually going into a little bit of detail about at least one of the terms of the contract. And the article reads Maxine says after the 2 years of bickering, the girls ran out of money and signed a deal with the old record label and the old producers and released EV3. The album was the best financial hit for the ladies, each of them taking home around $280,000 before taxes. We had been off for 2 or 3 years. We all needed that deal, Maxine admits. Donna was still unhappy and wanted out, so she walked away from the name and even ownership of the group. So, why is this important? Well, so much of Don's umbrage with the group is that she's alleging that they weren't making any money. And you can make an argument that $280,000 a piece isn't a lot of money, if you consider that the only income that the group would have received in 1997, which is not the case. But I think the fact that she's skipping over that is indicative of her dishonesty, and also it allows her to avoid accountability for wanting to leave the group for her own personal reasons. It wasn't not about finances, otherwise she would not have signed the contract and began recording the EV3 album. These YouTubers and internet folks are out here acting like she was Joan of Arc or something. That is not the case. What's actually the case is that she's just erratic. And with the idea that the group was broke, and with her continuing to repeat that, no one is really going to ask her about her money management skills, because why would you ask someone about money management if they allegedly don't have any money? Remember, Dawn said the only reason she agreed to do a solo deal with Elektra that was given to her by Sylvia Rhone was because she was afraid of losing her house, and that was in 1995. With $280,000 before taxes and most likely around $200,000 after taxes, she could have paid her house off. We know her mortgage was only $1,500. So she's saying she was struggling to keep her house in 1995, but yet in 2000, she's claiming that Raphael Sadiq is the reason she lost her home. And because people think that she never made any money, that En Vogue never made any money, no one is really asking about her money management. They're just thinking she keeps getting raw deals. But no, that is not the case. The people slandering Sylvia Rhone and Terry, they just essentially don't understand what happened back in the 90s. They are not really En Vogue fans. They are just making content. They don't know that Dawn walked away from her deal with Dr. Dre. They don't know that Donna was trying to be a mover and shaker. She had Left Side Entertainment, and Christian, the R&B duo, was one of her acts. They sang Full of Smoke, and she was in the video. So when she says something like Raphael Sadiq is the reason why she lost her house, they don't know the history and they'll just go into the, the canard. Oh, it's the industry. Well, no, you really have to look at the person you're speaking to. She has a track record. So in closing for part two, I'll just let Dawn explain it in her own words. I'll play three separate clips of her talking out of, all the sides of her neck that she has. I didn't realize people had so many sides of their neck to talk out of. And just let you see that she's a person who does not read contracts, does not understand business, and just wants to do whatever she wants to do when she wants to do it. And then when she doesn't get the outcome, blame everybody and not take any accountability. And that's why Don is really broke.
Raphael contacted my old manager, and she told him at the time she had some deals on the table for me with Virgin Records and RCA. Listen at RCA. And so she told him, well, sounds like a good idea, but Dawn is busy. We're getting ready to sign a solo deal for her. So no, that's not a good deal. And she told him no before she actually called me and said, hey, Dawn, Raphael was on the phone. He wants to know if you want to do this idea that he has. Like, she made a decision for me without me being involved. And her and I had already had it out with each other because we would go toe-to-toe battling, and because she tried to treat me like I was 17. And I hadn't been in the business, in the game, as long as I had. And I was like, wait a minute, Cassandra. Like, now, this is where you and I have to part ways. Yeah, so I had to let her go, and that was that for her and I. And I called Raphael, and I was like, Raphael, what is up? Because we've known each other since we were 16.
What happened with Lucy Pro is I trusted Raphael. I've known him since I was 16 years old. He played in my band, and so I trusted a little too much. I gotta say, it's my own fault, but I didn't really read the fine print. I read the general idea of it. I kind of skimmed through the contract. Let's just put it that way. But I didn't read thoroughly and make changes and redline the contract with him, and I got caught in the shuffle with that.
We were supposed to have our album out by June. Here we are in November. Our album wasn't out. And I was like, Raphael, the bank has been calling me about my house. And I was telling him prior to that, I need money. I need a little bit of money. And it wasn't a lot. It was what, $1,500 was my mortgage, $1,500. So, and he told me when I signed to Lucy Pro, because I turned down a deal with Bob Jameson. Like I said, I had a few deals on the table. Bob Jameson was at RCA, and he flew me to New York, and I had a deal on the table with him, and I turned that down to do Lucy Pearl. So if I had your back, you should have my back like you said you would, because he told me, I don't have a lot of money to give you up front, but I can figure out how to find what you need if you need it. And I was like, cool. If you just, if that's what if you're telling me that when I'm down on my luck or I need a little bit of money, you're going to figure out how to help me out, then cool. I'll sign with you.